Hello, friends. This is Christopher Davis-Shannon, and today I'm yet again hopping across the pond, which seems to be something that I've been doing quite frequently lately, to chat with the amazing Peter Moss. Peter, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm not doing too shabby. It's really great to see you from afar. And if you wouldn't mind, could you just kick us off with a tune?
Sure. Why don't we try this one?
That was a lovely little tune, Peter. I reckon you've been playing this instrument for quite some time, have you not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I go back to, 1969, the year man was on the moon. So, yeah, February 26th of 1969, my parents bought me my first ukulele and I took to it like a sponge. So it was great fun. My late father, Dennis Moss, played guitar and a little bit of ukulele. He'd come across during the wartime, and he knew I had a musical interest, but my hands weren't developed enough to say play a guitar because I didn't have the grip, the
Sure.
stretch or anything, So, but he could see I was really enthusiastic to do something, and rather than dampen that, he said, "Right, let's start you on this ukulele for the first." I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years. Then when you get to 16, 17, you can then think about the guitar, you've got the strength and the
Right.
attitude.
Yeah, it is the ultimate gateway instrument to any other fretted string
Absolutely,
instrument.
absolutely. He was so pleased that I kind of stuck with it, for quite a long time, and had fun along the way with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you actually ended up playing more guitar and keyboards and such for a while, correct? And putting the
Sure.
uke down for a bit.
Yeah. So that basically between the age of 8 to 16, so 8 years, I had a blast with the uke. But then at the time, there was very few people playing melody on the uke. You'd got on one side, you've got the George Formby Society and sort of the way he played with his right hand technique and everything and the comedy songs. But very few people were actually playing melody on the uke, which I was doing. And I used to kind of go to people's houses who could do this sort of technique and, as I said before, try and pick up things that they were doing. But after a while, it became, I want to do something else. I really want to do something else. And that's when it just went bing, let's go back to that sort of guitar idea. Can I now do it? And myself and my father, we went to a music store. We tried out 2 or 3 guitars. I think they were only about, I guess, $100 in US, nothing special, but at least it was my first guitar and I really took to it. However, much to my father's dismay, I put the uke down. Yeah. I wanted to play rock music. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be Eddie Van Halen, you know. So
How did that go for you? Did you
well,
ever achieve Van Halen status?
well, no, unfortunately, but you know, I had great fun trying, you know. So, but you know, all the rock music that was around at the time was really into it in the sort of mid 70s and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, you know, and got into it in a big way with various bands and things. Did a couple of albums, nothing that's known, but it was a great change for me to be able to get my teeth into something else. So that's what I did, and then it just progressed into recording
Hmm.
other people and then producing other people. And then I started doing a cabaret act, myself playing guitar and the uke and various wind instruments and things. And I took that on the road as a sort of semi-professional around the north of England. So we have a lot of things in the UK called working men's clubs, and basically a lot of them were associated with political parties like the Labour Club, the Conservative Club, the Liberal Club, but there are also clubs for the working man, i.e. in the coal mines and this, that and the other, that was all around in the 70s. And basically I was doing this one-man show, recording my own backing tracks and everything, and bass and keyboards, and if it needed it, I'd record backing vocals as well. So for me, it was exactly what I wanted, something to get my teeth into, different from the uke.
Yeah. But here we are today.
Mm.
And I would say most people who know the name Pete Moss know you as a uke player. So what brought
Yeah.
you back to the dark side?
2 words, my wife. And I mean that in a nice way, if she's watching this.
She saved you. That's what you meant to
That's
say.
that's it. Yeah. So it's another birthday thing because 2013 February 26th, she said, "Look, I'm going to buy you a uke. You know more about ukes than me. This is your budget. Go and get one." So literally off Amazon, I ordered a what was it? An Ibanez, yeah, electroacoustic, because in the early days there was no amplification as such. You know, I did play the banjo uke as well; it had more power.
Yeah.
But of course, now having this uke, it was like, wow, you know, I've forgotten all about this, and I could play it and do this, that, and the other. But in the meantime, in the transition period when I was playing guitar, I learned a lot of jazz as well as the rock stuff. And I thought, I wonder if I can try and sort of get some of those chords, some of those jazz chords onto the uke. Now, as you know, a lot of these jazz chords need more than 4 strings. You know, they've got like 5 components, like a ninth or a
Oh,
13th,
yes.
6 components, and you know, it goes on. You know, but I think you can do a pretty good sort of impression of ninths and 13ths if you mix them in with standard chords, sort of thing.
Agreed. Oh, wait, it's fun. I actually very much enjoy playing 4-string instruments in a chord melody context because of those decisions that you have to make as far as which chords we're dropping. But then I look back at a lot of the old guitar repertoire, Carl Kress, Eddie Lang, people
Mm.
such as that, who are still coming a little bit out of the banjo school for some of
Yeah.
them, and playing, when you look at the voicings they were playing, it's a lot of shell voicings of 4 notes because that's what they were used to. So,
Yeah.
I find that a lot of that early guitar rep can be transferred to uke rather easily,
Yeah.
but with very specific decisions made as far as the voice leading and how to make it work, which is so much fun to me. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite parts of the instrument,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
those concessions we need to make in playing.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I like to take a piece, learn it the sort of basic way, and it's nice and pretty and everything. Then what can I substitute that with?
Yeah,
How can I do a more fancy turnaround? How can I make this introduce better with a nice introduction? How can I end it? You know, how can I link it into another song? And all those things are there, as you know. You know, and
yeah.
that's the fun of the uke. You know, there's so much you can do with it. You know, and people think it just does. Oh, it's C, it's F, it's G7, but no, it just
Right, and that's what I tell my students is a lot of us do get pigeonholed into thinking, open position chords are all we have, but it's an instrument just like any other instrument. We can
right.
do whatever the heck we want with it
Yeah,
as long as we know what we're doing. And
Yeah.
that's the battle. If you only want to play 3 chords, then that's cool. That's the purpose of the instrument, as you have it. But if you want to do things such as you do, those some of your chord melodies are just stunning that you
Thank
do
you.
on there. And and the Formby style technique as well, which is you had mentioned George Formby earlier, who's someone I love to talk about here as a US based player. Even inside the uke world, I would say most players here have no idea who George Formby is. And you
Right.
mention him to anyone that grew up in the UK,
Mm.
and I mean, regardless of whether they play an instrument or not, and they know exactly who George Formby is, and are probably a fan from back in the day. Is that something that you learned rather early on in your ukulele journey, the Formby style playing?
1971 was when I actually went to the George Formby Society, which is just in his name, sort of thing. And it was a yearly event. Then it became so popular; it's now 4 times a year in the seaside town of Blackpool in Lancashire. You may have heard of a song called "The Little Stick of Blackpool Rock." Well, that was written all about the seaside town of Blackpool.
Okay.
So it just seemed, and because he was a Lancashire lad himself, it just seemed the right place to actually do it. And so I went along playing some melody stuff, which I'd actually picked up from somebody, introduced to the Formby Society, and then I saw what people could do with their right hand rhythmically. And I thought, ooh, I want a bit of that, so.
Oh, it's so much fun. And the
Yeah.
rhythmic complexity that you can get with just these open position chords.
Yeah.
Incredible what the man would do. It was truly revolutionary at the time.
Yeah.
I wish I saw more people over here, even just utilizing those techniques in common practice, because I feel that they're things that suit themselves. Really, I use them in jazz soloing when I'm playing with a band. I'll break into a Formby style chorus and play with 2 against 3 and do all the triples. And I find that to be a blast. I think he actually developed a lot of techniques, or at least refined a lot of techniques that are useful for players even to this day.
Absolutely. I mean, I say this to people on stage. I usually do 1 number on the banjo uke just to show what it is, how George played, and just a quick demo of the right hand, and building it from a very simple stroke to something that has an accent, to something that has an offbeat, to something that, then I'll just do 1 piece. So it has a 5-minute slot in my uke concerts wherever I play now, so, and when you play it, people just like, oh. It's like, how did he do that? So,
it's mind-blowing. Yeah, then you throw in the fan strum and everyone's so confused.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you realize how it's actually played. You go, oh, well, that's it. That's all it was.
Yeah. So there's a guy, you were probably friends with him as well, called Andy Eastwood.
I was actually just thinking of Andy. I've had Andy on this show before.
Right.
We had a lovely chat. And one of the things I love about Andy is that he really incorporates the Formby style techniques into typical chord melody playing.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is something Formby himself wouldn't really do. He would play usually down the neck. And I think a lot of Andy's playing as really building upon the Formby legacy, which I think is a beautiful thing, a brilliant musician.
Without doubt, and such a nice guy as well. But what I was going to say was, what you've kind of introduced there is that he's taken that basic Formby rhythm and he's put it into other things, and not a lot of people can do that. So
no, it's tough. Certainly, I think, because especially for people who are familiar with the Formby style and how it sounds, your ear just automatically runs to George Formby when you hear split stroke. Something like that. But other players were doing very, very similar patterns around the same time as Formby. Roy Speck even was doing split strokes in some of his pieces back then, and even some Hawaiian players in the early days. And it's, Ernest Caillie describes the split stroke in, I think, his 1913 method book. Is the earliest thing I saw, which you have to assume it came independently to each of these. There wasn't mass communication as we have today. It's something that kind of naturally lays on an instrument with reentrant tuning. It's something we can do on uke that those pesky guitar players cannot do.
Yeah.
That's actually something silly I found, because I also play guitar and tenor guitar and various other instruments, that I'll go into a solo on guitar, and sometimes my picking hand will decide it's going to go into a split stroke pattern on on guitar or on tenor. It just doesn't work quite as well for some reason.
What am I playing here with this pick?
Yeah. I'm really glad
Yes.
they're, the George Formby Society as a whole that's really keeping that style alive. Because as I said, it's something that I'm trying my best to introduce more to the American market
Yeah.
as I can for those of those players that aren't familiar with it, because it's such an interesting style and there's so much there. So I'm glad there's players like yourself that are doing it just so darn well over in the UK. It gives me hope for the style.
Bless you. One
Pete,
of the interesting
yeah.
one of the interesting things is with Formby in the UK is the actual name of the instrument, which we know as the ukulele, the sort of figure of eight ukulele. If you said to somebody in the street, as it were, I play the ukulele, the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, that George Formby instrument," sort of thing. Yeah,
Yes.
and
And
they,
here people ask us to play Over the Rainbow if they hear that you play
yeah.
ukulele. I'd much rather someone ask me to play Leaning on a Lamppost solo or something.
Yeah. But here's the interesting bit. If you ask them to draw on a piece of paper what a ukulele is, do you know what they draw?
A
They draw a
banjolele.
banjolele. Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Honestly. Yeah. Honestly, no matter where I go, if I say to somebody who isn't in the know of ukuleles and banjoleles, I play the ukulele. Oh, George Formby leaning on a lamppost, and just draw me a picture. There's a banjolele. So
See, this here, Pete, we have found it. We have found the ultimate cultural divide between America and the UK.
yeah,
It is the ukulele and the banjolele.
that's it. Yeah.
Pete, would you mind playing us another one of those beautiful tunes?
Sure. How about this one?
Another beautiful tune, Pete. Thank you so much.
Thank
Much like
you.
many other people, I first ran across you on YouTube, as
Hmm?
one does these days. And you've been active on the platform for quite some time. I mean, I think your videos date back 7 or 8 years, both performances as well as tutorials that you are so kind to produce and throw into the world for free. But it was a little less typical back that long ago for everyone to be posting their ukulele videos on YouTube. So what got you started posting over there?
Well, when I initially started, it was people who were taking videos of me and then posting it there, and then I'd share those around with social media, etc., etc. But when my wife bought me this uke I was mentioning before, I thought, well, maybe it's time to actually show people what I do, because in that break of 30 years, nobody knew who Peter Moss was. So I thought, well, come on, let's say hello world. You know, I'm back in here now. What can I do? And I decided to do. I think there was 10 basically videos of about 3 minutes in length, and I just put them on YouTube and then put a link onto Facebook. And people got to know me, sort of thing, which was wonderful. And one of the guys that contacted me on the strength of putting those things on YouTube was a good friend of yours and mine, Little Rev.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he says, how do you fancy playing in 2014, the Milwaukee Ukulele Festival? Well, my arm was so far up my back, you know.
Right.
I said, absolutely
Twist it.
love to. Yeah. So here's me not playing the uke for all these years. I put something on YouTube, and then suddenly Little Rev contacts. So there's probably 9 months to go, and a lady from Bonita Springs in Florida, her name's Sherry Bruder. She contacted me. She says, I've got a uke group here within this sort of complex, but I also am a member of the Fort Lauderdale group, the Tampa Bay group, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
If you come to me before you go to Little Rev's concert festival, I'll take you round there. So I thought, oh, it's brilliant, this is, you know. So this is a true story. Like 1 month before, a guy who'd been recommended to me, I'd sent him an email. He contacted me and said, look, I'm very, very, very sorry I didn't reply to you, but somehow you ended up in the junk mail. And I've just been going through it, and you requested that could I play for Dayton, Ohio? So he says, I actually run the group there. So when you're finished with Rev, can you come to Dayton, Ohio? So from doing these things on YouTube, it was Florida, it was a Milwaukee festival, and then it was Dayton, Ohio. I got home and somebody contacted me for Australia. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. All within 6 months, 9 months of
Yeah.
something on YouTube, which was just
It's
incredible.
really incredible, the power of social media these days, even more so. You know, we can find the best players in the world at the drop of a hat, where, you know, I mean, we would not be having this conversation if not for social media. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to find the few people in the world that are interested in the weird things that we are interested in, such as playing ukulele, and put them all together. And then the festivals and all of the uke groups are just so incredible. I do a lot of them in America as well. And getting to go teach workshops is one of my personal favorite parts.
You know, me too.
Doing this. And I know that's something you've been doing for quite some time. It's really a different connection with the audience than what you get when you're on stage. Still performative to some aspect, but definitely you feel a much deeper connection to the people that you'll probably be playing a later concert for that evening.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah, and
it basically it kind of gives a more of a sort of intimate connection, I find. That, you know, especially if we've been learning something together as a group, and then that group are then watching you in the concert afterwards. It's a wonderful experience. Yeah. So
I do one of my chord melody workshops that I do based off of Royce Mack's 12th Street Rag. And then, I mean, a simple melody over simple chords. How hard could it be? Very hard. That's the answer. Because Royce Mack, it's what he does. But then I'll always play it at the concert that night as well. And to see people's eyes light up when they hear something that they've just tackled that afternoon, and then hear it played on stage is a magical thing. And you don't get that in many other musical worlds. This huge sense of community that we have between uke players, and it's something I really love, and I'm missing currently in this odd time. And speaking of that, I mean, both you and I think we do very similar things out there in the real world when it is open. And I'd like to actually pick your brain a little bit about how you've made this transition into even more online content. I know you have a Patreon now, and you're putting out tutorials on a regular basis, as opposed to just putting them on YouTube whenever you would like. And do you feel that in the future, this is going to be something that overall is going to be beneficial for you outside of pandemic apocalypse times,
Yeah.
when the world opens? And do you feel it's something that really is benefiting you as a teacher? Are you getting something out of putting all this work out there?
I think it's making me a better player, to be perfectly honest, because it's making you
Agreed.
think like you are starting again. You're putting yourself in their shoes. What can I do to explain this in a simplified manner? And never assuming that the people who are watching it will understand what you understand, because it's very easy, as you know, to fall into that
Of
trap
course.
of saying, well, you know, it just goes four in, then just do this one, and there's that upstroke and everything. That's it. And they say, what?
It's that easy. Just look, it's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
And the thing is,
So,
to me, it gets to being, close to teaching a workshop at a festival,
mm,
because it's not like the one-on-one lessons, which we both also do, where you have that direct connection with each person.
yeah,
It's trying to convey these larger concepts in a manner that's accessible to as many people as possible. It'll never be
right.
everyone, but that is certainly a hurdle. But as you said, it can benefit both your playing and teaching so much.
Yeah, yeah. And if you've got, say, 100 people in your workshop, it's being able then to use those people. And I find that the majority can sing.
Mm.
So most of my workshops are based around a song to start with. Then we'll do some substitution chords. We may do an intro and ending. We may even do a change of key. But I do this sort of rock and roll medley, which finishes with shake, rattle, and roll. And there's actually, at one part, there's no uke at all. And there's three parts of singing with harmony and everything. So
Yeah.
it's themselves experiencing what it's like to sing within a group of, 80 to 100 people. It sounds wonderful,
Yeah.
and then they all come back in with the ukes on the end and do the big, scissor kick for the big rock and roll ending, bang, and it's a
Yeah.
whole load of fun, and I think that's what it's about. If you can teach somebody and they can come at the end and they come up to you and they say, Peter, we so enjoyed that workshop, so we've learned all this stuff, but at the end of the day we've had a load of fun. I think if you get that, job done.
Exactly. And to me, for people, if you get this much out of what was in the workshop, that's good enough for me. Not everyone's going to get everything, but as long
Yeah.
as you don't hate me after the fact
Yeah.
for what I just talked to you about for an hour,
I
we're
like
good.
that.
It's like, actually, I did shake, rattle, and roll on uke a few years ago. I did a video. Actually, one of my other gigs that I do in the real world is I play upright bass for Bill Haley Jr. and the Comets, Bill's son. So I have played that song more than I would ever care to admit in my entire.
Well,
but it is a fun song, and
yeah.
it kind of makes me want to take a uke to a gig and do the solo, the shout chorus on there. It might be
Yeah.
a little bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with the Patreon that you're running now, I know we address it in different ways. So what sorts of things are you putting up on there, and what are you focusing on in your Patreon lessons?
What I wanted to do, because there's so many great teachers out there, is try and offer something a little bit different, try and find my own niche, as it were. And I wanted to try and build a ukulele community. So that means that, yes, I'm the teacher, I'm creating all this stuff, but then I want people to send things to me in a video, like a selfie video, and then that goes back on the site again. So,
Oh, nice.
so the whole idea is it's full circle. So it's shortcuts to ukulele playing. So all the stuff that, I mean, if we're honest and we say we've been playing for 50 years on the ukulele, we may have been actually playing, but we've been learning for probably, if you add it all together, only probably 5 or 6 years
Oh,
of
exactly. And how much
actual
actual
learning.
practice did we do in that time? We played for
Yeah,
5,000 hours, but we
yeah, yeah.
practiced for 15 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I find that when people send the things back again, it's great, because then there's those people who would have thought, no, I'm not going to send this in because what will people think,
Yeah.
But we've got over that, So as well as having the thing on the Patreon, I also have a side thing, a chat room, as it were, so people can like have a chat that nobody else can see, just sort of Patreon members and everything, which is really, really good as well.
Yeah.
They feedback to me what they enjoyed about a lesson, and quite rightly, they told me that this one was too challenging, maybe we could look in this direction. And that's all superb feedback, but they tend to do that on the chat room rather than on the Patreon site.
Right. It's calling you out in public.
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's so similar to them being able to send in their videos and getting over that initial fear of putting yourself out there, even if it's only for a small group of people, can be really, really challenging for a lot of people. But on the other hand, that you're also getting feedback as an educator, which sometimes we don't get so much.
That's it.
In less stricter, we're not teaching in a public school setting where we have structured curriculum and whatnot. So I'm sure for you, having that structure, that feedback from the people who are learning for you is so beneficial in helping you do what you do better in the future, and the workshops that you're teaching in the future, and be able to incorporate those ideas and see what works and what doesn't.
That's right. So what I do on every post is just put a little paragraph just saying what it is, have a look at. And as always, please leave your comments. I do read every single comment that's posted, and I might get one or two. Yeah. If one of my patrons comes back and I upload their video, the comments, you won't believe it, there's about 15 to 20. So
that's great.
It really is good because everybody's encouraging one another, so
having that support is huge. So, because it's there's so many ukulele groups on things such as Facebook, and they can be very dangerous places to post. I could not imagine, if I was a beginner, some of the critiques that I had, unsolicited critiques I have seen from some people on there, what that would have done to my trajectory on the instrument, or whether I would have kept playing if people had said such mean things to me when I was just starting out. So having a bit of an insular community that you have created is going to help people so much in being able to find their own voice on the instrument in a safe place where they can have good critique from a professional, not just from other amateurs, and but also from their contemporaries. And that's just as important. And we don't always get to see that, especially as we're not out in the world doing this online. It's great to see how the sense of community has maintained throughout in the uke world, with all the uke groups that are doing their groups still just run on Zoom or something such as that. There's so many of the festivals. I'm sure you've probably done a few festivals that have been streamed online at this point. I'm doing one tomorrow. I have another. Actually, no, Saturday. We're both on that one, aren't we?
Yeah. How could you?
Hey, we're playing a gig together. I totally forgot you were on that. Yeah, you did tell me, and I forgot. It's a shame. I'm actually going to be in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, which is Gaithersburg, Maryland, is 15 miles from there. Right. Probably where Natty and Keith are. I'll be right there, but live streaming from my Airbnb. But I'm looking forward to that. That's actually a very good lineup that they have on Saturday, and all swing music. You can't go wrong with that. I hope they'll accept some ragtime from me, but we'll see.
I'm sure they will.
I don't think they'll mind too much. Pete, would you mind playing us one final tune?
Sure. How about this one?
Well, Pete, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to have a little chat with me and play some tunes. And if
Thank
you
you for
wouldn't
having me.
mind, would you just play us a little bit of exit music?
Sure. How about this one?